eat carrots. You. Yeah, a steak.
What a steak.
New policy to any vegetarian who watches this. For every steak you don't eat, I'll eat 2. Watch me. I'll hit the gym. Biceps will be bigger than ever before. The souls of dead animals power me. I'll be a unit. I'll be massive. That's the biggest meat eater in the world. And when I walk up all 200 kilos of me to your hippie convention and rip all your heads off, you're gonna know what a real human being is. How is he so strong? How did he destroy 1 million of our hippie warriors? Because I eat meat. Fuck you.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are reacting today to Andrew Tate, and he destroys vegans in this take. This is one of the first times that I've heard him talk about vegans, vegetarians, and he's a really, really interesting character. So I want to explain just a couple things about this guy. So first of all, this is Men's Health Monday. We're going to be talking about health today and some of his health claims that he makes in this video, as well as some of the things about masculinity and men and what it means to be a man. And we have Mike joining us as well, who has not ever seen, except for this one 20-second clip, any videos or anything of this guy at all. And he's actually the most searched person on the internet, which is absolutely crazy. And he recently got banned from every single major platform, which is absolutely wild. So he pretty much got canceled. And we're going to share a couple little clips of him to kind of get an idea of who this guy is about and what he's about, so you can understand. I know, Mike, because you have no idea about this guy, and besides those 20 seconds, which he just seems like a crazy person. And for people that maybe don't know who this guy is still, or you want to go look him up and you're like, I can't because he's been canceled everywhere. It was actually hard to find a couple clips of him because of how he's been canceled. So I'm going to play 3 clips in a row that kind of explain a little bit about him. And then we'll go right into reacting to that first video that you just saw about him attempting to destroy vegetarianism and vegans. All right, so let's go right into this. I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me just a minute as I go and get these videos pulled up. All right, so here we go. Let's do, which one do we want to do first? Let's do this one first. I don't know which ones these are. We're going to do 3.
Brother has a daughter, and she's beautiful. She's my niece. I don't want her to grow up in a world where women are hated. I don't want her to grow up in a world where men are oppressive and hurting women. Why would I possibly want that? I want her to find a strong man who can protect her, who can provide for her, who can make sure she's safe, but I don't want anything bad to ever happen to her. My own personal circumstances regarding family are something that are once again confidential, but I confirm to you that the last thing I would ever want is for women to be marginalized in the future.
All right, so we got one quick one about him talking about women and something opening up a little bit personal where he doesn't really talk about family and stuff like that. He's more kind of like educating, teaching, sharing his perspective, sharing his thoughts, sharing his opinions and stuff like that. But he's been labeled by a lot of people as misogynist and women hater and sexist and all this sort of stuff. And he does have a lot of sexist claims for sure that most people just have never heard from a lot of people. And so that's kind of like one of his things that he talks about. All right, so we're going to go into the next one. Oh, nice. They come up quick. Here we go. All right, here's another one. I found this one on TikTok.
Andrew Tate speaking the truth.
So even if you look at things like women's rights, women need rights, women need protecting, women should be equal under the law. Completely agree.
They said they wanted women to work so people could pay more taxes, no?
They want people to work so they can pay more taxes, double the tax base. But you know what else they wanted them to work for?
Get the kids out of the...
Get the kids out of the influence of the parents, right? When the woman's at home and the father's at work, those children are learning from the woman who's probably learning from the father, and you get to instill your own beliefs in those children. Government doesn't want that. Government wants the children to belong to them. So they get the woman out of the house and they send you to school for as long as possible to reprogram you. This is why you will see YouTube videos of children arguing with their parents, and their parents will say that's not true. And the children will say, I learned in school that a man can be a zebra, or whatever they learn. And they start arguing with their own children. You don't own your own children's minds anymore, because your children's mind is owned by YouTube and the school, right? And the school will say to you, if your parents ever yell at you or get aggressive to you, you come to me, and we'll tell the police. Don't worry about that. So they're doing it to brainwash the children, right? Because this is how you control the future. So the whole educational system in and of itself is a scam. They use feminism and the whole women's rights bullshit to get everyone's children into the indoctrination machine. They keep you there as long as possible. They want you to finish in debt, because then you got to get a fucking job and become a good slave. But they don't teach you anything of value.
All right. So he often talks about some of the establishment and the government and schools and this is where a lot of people think, because no one knows why he got canceled. They don't, platforms rarely tell you why they take you off, right? And so there's a lot of just speculation. And this is one of the things that some people speculate, like kind of some of his conversations or opinions on the vaccine and COVID, or some of his conversations are on the government and all these sort of things. And, some people think that this is one of the reasons, because sometimes people think, well, there's a lot of people that are maybe misogynistic or sexist or anything like this, but like, they're not canceled. So maybe it's not that, it's like, maybe it's deeper or something that like, maybe he got to something or shared something that someone really didn't want people to see. And they're like, we got to get rid of this guy. Okay, we're going to share one last one that kind of explains a little bit of like his perspective, after being like canceled, and kind of a little bit what he thinks about it. Cause he wasn't that type that's like, oh, poor me. Oh my gosh, these places are horrible. He was like, I'm going to create my own thing. I'm going to learn, I fall down. They're not going to knock me down kind of thing. I'm going to kind of get back up, pick myself up and, make something even better out of this, kind of mindset is what he has. So this kind of shares a little bit of what he kind of thinks when it comes to like kind of just the banning and cancellation. Cause it's like, you'll see, it's like a little bit more than what people might think of someone being canceled. And this was on the news, like the mainstream news.
But I want to tell you something that's actually kind of scary about this banning. It all came so hard and so fast that I don't know if they all just follow each other. I don't know if they're all influenced by each other. I don't know if there's someone above them all. I don't know. But when they go to cancel you, ladies and gentlemen, it comes hard and fast. You lose your Facebook, then your Instagram, then your Gmail, then your Discord, then your website hosting, then your domain name, then your payment processor, then your bank. Then it's just like in real time, you're watching your phone and apps just exploding. Boom, boom, boom. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the heck he's going through after this situation and that sort of stuff. And, that was him like, sharing on the mainstream news afterwards and that sort of stuff. So before we jump right in to the actual video that we're going to react to, and some of you guys have a generalized idea of him. I mean, you can't really tell much about a couple short clips about someone, but real quick before we jump in, what is like your general impression on this guy and some of the things he's sharing after just a couple random clips?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. That first clip we saw, obviously that was the first thing I'd seen of him, the only thing I'd seen of him. So I sort of had formed an opinion based on that. And those following clips sort of reshaped that perspective a little bit. He does seem like he's actually fairly intelligent. And I think that, some of what the underlying core of some of what he was saying was important and truthful. But I think he's also, very much into sensationalization. And, I think it's important to recognize whether someone is being right to spread the truth or whether someone is being right to get rich and look cool. Right. And I can't say, which of the two it is for him, but he definitely seems to be.
For his situation, he did accumulate a majority of his wealth prior to any kind of popularity. You know what I mean? As far as like social media kind of presence and popularity, he was making money from that, but he did acquire like his wealth, prior to that from like other businesses and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. And even like his reaction to like kind of getting canceled is like kind of a whatever in a way. It's like, what, I'm gonna be fine. Like I don't need that, like I'm still good, versus like some people be like, I mean, even some people might have an Instagram account that's their entire business. Like that could crush, someone.
Yeah.
I even seen when my mom's account was hacked, and that was like her main thing that she did in communicating. It was kind of devastating for her, to be honest, when it's like your kind of only thing. So like when it's not his only thing, you could understand like, well, whatever. I mean, I was already good, like as far as like from a financial standpoint, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that he also has, from what I can tell, this very like typical baseline masculinity where you're confident in who you are. You're not necessarily worried about other people's opinions and then reshaping yourself or trying to fit into, pleasing them or their opinions. And figuring out, just being the kind of person that's like, I'm going to adventure through the world and figure stuff out and not need my hand held or have people help me with things, or like, I'll do it and whatever, and so be it. Right. And this is how it is. But the downside to that is that there's no like check. There doesn't appear to be, again, I'm going off a little bit of information here. There doesn't appear to be a check and balance for people like that. Right. In terms of like that's where you get the, the people throughout history that an extreme awful example would be Adolf Hitler, right? And like just willing to accomplish stuff. And like, when you think about the stuff he was trying to put together, it's like when you look at the way the world actually runs and the way most people think, if he was trying to tell you, okay, here's my plan, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, you'd be like, there's way too many obstacles, you're crazy, and let's say you ethically align with him. I don't know how you're going to do that. That dude did it. He just put his head down and did it. So like, that's the really bad extreme version. But when people are like that, it can become dangerous because they're so confident in their opinion, they're so strong in their masculine energy that they're not willing to take advice or guidance from anyone else, or they're not willing to accept or be open to the fact that maybe what they're thinking or doing, while they're going to commit to it and maybe succeed in the outcome, might not be good, might not have a beneficial outcome for other people or for them in the long run. So that's sort of my impression of where he's at. And I think the ego that comes with that is dangerous, because he does seem intelligent and sort of on point with some of his thinking, but that check and balance doesn't exist, to self-regulate himself. So he's probably very dangerous to himself and others as well.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like the perspective from a few clips is really definitely fascinating, for sure. Like, especially because I know a little bit more like some of the backstories and something like that, and just to see the conclusion, with that, which is, I mean, fair, you know what I mean? And definitely understandable, I mean, you could show me if you cherry picked or whatever, some horrible things about someone, and that was the only thing I knew, I'd be like, yeah, man, as a bad person, they got to go. I've seen other bad people like that, kind of thing, for sure. And, but yeah, like, even like the comparison or whatever to like a Hitler or an extremist or anything like that, like even that plan that he has, you know what I mean? Like the ultimate plan that I think he had was only shared with just a few people, you know what I mean? Like it was almost like a hush hush. And like, even this guy appears to be like, his plan, at least this stage in his life, is to try to share his perspective on his experience throughout the world and to try to educate young men to prepare themselves for like some of the shit and challenges, that men might go through, you know what I mean? Whereas maybe there is a totally underlining agenda that we have no idea, that we don't even know, that could be, similar to that, but I think, I told you in the voice message, that kind of explaining, he has a site called Hustlers University, where it's designed for young men, to learn, whatever you believe on that particular platform. I mean, there's some stories about it, but the classes that are set up are classes like finances, classes like social media, classes like entrepreneurship, training to be your own boss, to be an entrepreneur, to live that kind of lifestyle, and kind of teaching how he's kind of made it to that point, and so in the sensationalism, I think, is what got him the popularity. Like if he wasn't, I don't think if he was so sensational, right, is the word you used earlier, I don't know if he would have gotten that kind of attention, because I'm talking about, he's gotten an unbelievable amount of attention, you know what I mean? And I just don't think not that the sensationalism is necessary, but in this situation, I think that's kind of part of what helped to propel him to that kind of thing. Like, what the hell is this guy? What he's talking about? I don't agree with that. Now they're going to watch. Now they're cooked. Now you're getting all these other ones, and it's just like, kind of how it went, right? Kind of like we clicked the clickbait we did on this title, right? Clickbait. Andrew Tate destroys vegans, right? Is like, okay, it's a little bit sensationalized, right? And like, we want the information out there. But anyways, are you ready if you don't mind to dive into it. You want to say something?
Really quickly, I wanted to say he reminds me of, I've seen, again, if my assessment's accurate, I've seen personalities like his before. And he reminds me specifically of one individual when the internet was a lot younger. There was a website called E-Bombs World. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I remember that one. It was the one to do like prank calls. They use it for prank calls, right? Like voices and stuff.
Soundboard for prank
calls. Yeah, soundboard.
Yeah. Like silly games. It was sort of like a precursor to the open source world. Like people would go on and create their own like weird games and gizmos and whatever. But there was a guy on there who ended up branching off and creating his own website, but he started on there and his name was Maddox. And he was a very masculine personality. And it reminded me of this guy, right? And just would say stuff that he knew certain core groups would identify with, but also was very sensationalized and would fuel the fire for people that didn't agree with him. And he got to a point where he was dominating what was the internet back then. And it was very offensive. It was very clickbaity. It was all intentional. And I remember talking to friends about it and being like, he presents himself as this super masculine dude, and he's probably doesn't look at all like how he says he looks. And, it's probably this totally different person hiding behind a computer screen, essentially. Right. But that's what it reminds me of. And anybody out there that's listening to this that maybe can remember that would at least have a reference. Maddox, Maddox. But yeah, let's keep on going here.
Yeah, for sure. I got you. All right. So let's see. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna react to the actual video that you guys all came here for in the very first one that we played. And we're gonna react and help to kind of break down some of the ridiculous claims that this guy has and basically debunk them and help people with their health as well as for men especially. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go onto the video right here. All right, here we go. I'm going to try and skip to where he starts because I think this first person. So they're basically in a hotel room. He's talking about room service, right? And so this is kind of what he says about some room service.
Anything you want.
I do quite fancy a nice vegetable soup or a salad or something.
What kind of man eats salad?
What kind of man who exercises?
Salad. In fact, I have an anti-vegetarian policy in my life. Anything that's ordered to my penthouse must include meat or it's not coming. Absolutely and utterly, I refuse to accept any kind of vegetarianism in my existence.
So if I'm ordering, I have to order meat. If we get service, meat is coming.
Meat has to come. Vegetarianism isn't real. Vegetarianism still to this day is not a real thing. People say I'm a vegetarian as if it's a reality. It's not reality, it's a religion. It's a choice they've made. It's a conscious choice, but it doesn't mean they are a vegetarian. A human.
All right, real quick, I want to react to one thing that he said. I think it's so absolutely ironic that he's like, we got to have meat, have to have meat. We need to have meat in this hotel room. Stat pronto, can't have a meal, can't have anything besides the meat. He's eating some chips, you know what I mean? While talking about that, you know what I mean? Those chips are vegetarian, you know what I mean? Those chips are Pringles. I think most of them are, a lot of them are vegan, right? And so it's just kind of like this ridiculous, ironic thing, but it also, because he claims and talks about this, he doesn't really claim, but he talks a lot about being alpha and masculine and stuff like that, right? And it plays into that huge stereotype, that's been around for a long time. You need to be meat. You need to eat meat to be manly, right? And it even goes back to like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and talking about that in the past, and so many people, and the commercials, and it plays into it. And if you never ever second guessed it and you never tried it, you never tried without it, and you never seen anyone that could be, perform you, without meat, then you wouldn't believe it, right? And I think, I'm a newer vegan, right? You know what I mean? Compared to you for sure, 5 years to 15 years, right? And I can think back, before I had some of these similar mindsets and thoughts, and because it's not because I was like not thinking for myself. I just, it kind of was that, but it was also, I never really thought about it. I never actually took the time. And that's the thing about this guy in this clip that you're seeing is he is 100% ignorant because he actually hasn't taken the time to look into anything or kind of do some of the research, right? But with that being said, we're going to do our best to kind of help, educate, you guys, as we see, some of these parts that are coming, because the challenge also is with the huge amount of influence that this guy has, is that people will see that and just be reinforced. It just adds to the fuel, of unnecessary animal suffering, right? So yeah, what would you like to say to what you saw so far?
Yeah, I just, I wanted to speak to that whole concept of like, it's not, first of all, to say vegetarianism is not real, and it's not a reality, and we're saying it's a religion, or that
He's gonna
we're
go on to explain why he thinks that, but yeah.
I could understand why he would think that, but obviously it's not accurate, and it highlights severe ignorance of biology, right? And of what human beings are biologically designed to consume, right? And I think there's also a heavy amount of ego affixed to it, because you get into this weird slip space where men think that in order to be manly they have to eat meat, which basically means you need to dominate. Psychologically, I need to show that I can dominate another thing, but I'm not actually dominating it. I'm just chewing dead parts of it with a knife and fork, because I can't actually break it apart myself, and I didn't kill it, but it's going to prove how manly I am. Like, really though, that would be like the equivalent of saying like real men beat up children, right? And if you're not beating up children, if you're not really showing that you can beat up kids, you're not really that masculine. You're kind of weak. Real men beat them up, right? It's like,
and some people might say like children, animals, how do you compare that? Like, what? Every single animal that's killed is a baby. Like they are children. All of them are children of some mother and some father.
And let's quickly identify some of the similarities, right? So an adult human and a child human, which is smarter? The adult human. An adult human and an animal, which is smarter? The adult human. Now let's talk about strength. In most cases, adult human. Let's talk about ability to use tools and to trick and to outwit and to connive. Adult human. You start making these references, and it's like they're not the exact same thing. I'm not going to say that children are the same thing. And if I had to save a dying child or a goat, that I would choose the goat over the dying child. But at what point is showcasing your dominance over something else a sign of masculinity, right? As opposed to perhaps the opposite, right? A real masculine person. You look at nature and you look at like a lion that can like tear apart like 3 humans at once, and its little cubs are biting it and like hanging off its ear and like doing all these things, and that lion knows it could just destroy those children. It could eat them whole. Doesn't need to prove it. Doesn't need to prove to the other lions that it's tough, and that none of the other lions are going, oh, those cubs are beating you up, you're so soft. Doesn't need to prove anything, because it knows how powerful it is in its heart. It's a true alpha, right? And so I think we know in our hearts that we aren't. Throw this guy in a cage with a lion. Throw this guy in a cage with a horse. Throw this guy in a cage with a cow, bare hands. Who's coming out of there alive, right? Probably not him. The other animal doesn't even want to kill him. It'll just trample him by accident, because it's that much more powerful, and we are not designed to take him down. So just so silly that, he thinks that that's some sort of mark of masculinity, and he has this made up philosophy that human beings cannot or are not vegetarian, even when they are consuming food as a vegetarian and absorbing it and breaking it down and metabolizing it as a vegetarian would. So reality for him is not the same as concrete reality for the rest of us, it would appear.
No, absolutely. Like, he lives in his own reality. It's like his world, like he's the epitome of ego. He calls himself the top G, right? And he believes he's superior to every single other person out there, right? That's like legit, like how he walks the earth and believes, right? Yeah, right. All right, let's continue. All right, next we're gonna see like what the heck is he talking about vegetarian and religion. Let's see where he was at on that.
Same thing, but physiologically, humans are not designed to be vegetarians. There's actually different types of vegetarians. You get the ones who say, well, I don't eat meat because I don't like animals dying. And I don't have that big a problem with them. But then you get the ones who say, meat gives you cancer, humans aren't designed to eat meat, meat's killing the earth with greenhouse gases, and those are the real morons. Humans are absolutely and utterly designed to eat meat. Since the beginning of time, humans have eaten meat. Do you want to come along the last 20 years, now we have the science to completely dissect every single piece of food we eat and manage to barely scrape together enough nutrients from other sources and not eat meat and tell me that that's the natural order of the world. Saying you're a vegetarian is basically just...
All right, there was a lot to unpack there, like definitely going on, right? So like, let me, I guess, comment on the religion part, you know what I mean? And it not being we're not vegetarian or anything like that, you know, just to like kind of wrap that one up, right? So yeah, like the difference between like a religion, you know what I mean, and like someone vegan or vegetarian or something like that, you know what I mean? It's like they have a faith, you know, that they believe in, right? And maybe a set of principles and guidelines, and there might be some similarities there, right? And they might look up to like a greater being, right? Some type of spiritual being, a God, right? Or something like that, right? Now, for a religion for veganism or anything like that, is just essentially a belief to just not harm others as best as possible. You know what I mean? There isn't too much. And then vegetarianism, which is really what he's talking about the most, you know what I mean, is 100% a diet. Like people are like, you're vegetarian because your diet, you might have some ethical principles, you know, from Hinduism and you know, your religion might say, hey, you know, this sort of stuff, or Jainism or stuff like that, but it's not as common, you know, definitely much more rare, right? Than that. And then as far as, you know, vegetarian, are we supposed to eat plants or anything like that, or designed, you know, and talking about the natural order of things, right? He talks about the natural order of things and how it should be, and how if you could somehow manage to just scrape up all these things, you know, to get enough nutrients, you know what I mean, versus just, you know, getting it all from supposedly, you know, the meat is gonna give you everything that you need. It really does go back to what you were saying, you know, which is a good point, you know, put you in a, you know, in a cage or whatever with a lion or a cow, or hey, you know what, go be natural, just, you know, take away the tools, take away everything, you know, go bite into the side of that cow. Tell me how good that steak is. You know, is it, you know, is that really a delicious, you know, you don't need salt and the spices. Can your teeth even break through that hide of that cow? I don't think you have the jaw strength, the teeth strength. You're likely to break your jaw, break some teeth. These canines here that you can't see, those will not go through the side of the cow. You know, even some of those special humans that have a little bit of long one, definitely not thick enough to get through that hide of a cow, right? So there isn't these natural order of things, but we don't live in a natural world anymore. We aren't hunting, we aren't scavenging. You know, most people, and especially, you know, this guy, he's probably got access to the supermarkets, access to the DoorDash, access to the conveniences, you know, completely has all the money, you know, that he needs, you know, to get anything that he wants, right? And he definitely lives beyond the means of most people, and most people can definitely, you know, are going to go to the supermarket, right? And those most of those people have a very easy access to get all these fruits and vegetables everywhere, all these plant-based foods, you know, even all the substitutes, if you really want the substitutes to taste, you know, like the animal products that you had before, just so many options, right? To choose from. This idea of just barely scraping, I got to go from every corner of the land to get this vegetable and this plant and get this perfect, you know, wild thistle thorn, you know what I mean? And all these sort of things. Like, no, you absolutely don't. You know, 80%, 70% of my food comes from organic farms, superfoods direct to my door, you know, as high quality, as clean as I could possibly find. Easy peasy. You could do the same thing, and it'd probably be you know, just like pennies to you, you know, to cover all your baseline nutrition, right? And so those are definitely a few things that come to mind when I see, you know, that thing and that mindset that he has. But yeah, what do you got on that piece?
Well, I mean, there's a big difference between religion and veganism, right? The main one being religionism. Religion uses faith, right? That's one of the key terms that you put out there. That is a differentiation point for
Like a
religion.
faith versus a reality. It's like I'm believing in something, but like the like we're not. There's no. There's no like you look in a slaughterhouse, right? And that's real, and that's happening. That's tangible, and you can see it. You know, in most religions is I'm believing in something that I can't quite see for sure, 100%. And then like we're talking about reality versus the faith, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah. So, you know, religion will have an aspect of faith. It'll have guidelines and rules and principles, which maybe veganism or any other, you know, dietary practice and lifestyle will have, right? They'll have criteria that come with it to align with the beliefs that are driving it. So sure, in that very, very basic sense, they are the same. But so is school, so is a job, so is many things that have rules and regulations, right? Driving on the road is similar to veganism in that sense. But, you know, the faith part, right? So for religion, let's say Christianity, right? So show me God, show me Jesus, show me the Holy Spirit. All of these things that are part of the belief system, there has to be faith because they're not concretely there and proven. And, you know, veganism, I'm 15 years deep. I'm healthy. I still play sports. I still build muscle. You know, it's not a belief system. It's not fictional. And there's no speculation as to whether or not I can do it or I can eat vegetables or whether I'm eating vegetables. Maybe there's speculation before I eat a vegetable, whether I'll eat it, but that's as far as the speculation can go, you know? So the idea that we have a belief system or the way that he's comparing it to a religion is wrong. And, you know, I think maybe if we had a discussion with him, we'd be able to tease out something of what he's actually trying to say, because I can't imagine that he's actually trying to say that. It must just be a poor choice of words that is very easy to dissect and prove.
You could not even like believe anything about animals or anything about veganism or anything like that, and you could just say, I'm boycotting these industries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
so there's that, and then the fact that he says, you know, it's natural. There's obviously a lack of education there. You know, he's unaware of the fact that humans have evolved from frugivores. He's unaware of the historical significance of meat in you know, human culture and in ancient.
We're gonna get into that. Let's save that because he's gonna talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. All right, let's jump ahead because there's more to dissect, but
yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Let's go.
The main difference is the idea of veganism versus faith that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, we'll continue. All right, let's go.
And not eat meat and tell me that that's the natural order of the world. Saying you're a vegetarian is basically just saying, I don't understand how the world works. At the most basic level of this planet, something has to die for something else to stay alive. You'll not find an example anywhere on this planet where something's life isn't dependent on something else dying. That's the natural order of the world. I'm not saying it's a nice thing. I'm saying it's realistic. It's realism. To just sit and say, I eat cows die, and that means I get to live. That means I live in the real world. If you want to sit there and go, nothing should die, and I should eat grass, and then when your body's not designed to do that, you are basically just rejecting a real world view. To me, if you sit and say humans should be vegetarian, it's the same as saying I don't believe in gravity. It's like literally just throwing away any concept and any understanding of how the universe functions. And that's
all right. So he believes, right, that okay, go ahead. How about you go first, and then I'll reply to this one next. Go ahead.
Man, it's sort of hard to react to some of this stuff because it's so it's almost like hard to take seriously. It's like, are you genuinely thinking what you're saying, or are you just trying to say this to insinuate or stimulate?
It's both. Honestly, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. It's just so ignorant. There is such a lack of understanding and of awareness, you know, and he likens again veganism to eating grass, right? And it's like, we're not saying that we are a snail or that we're some other herbivore creature that you're now thinking of when you think vegan. And more importantly, I mean, other than the rare cases of people like Michaela Peterson, who we did a reaction to, who eats exclusively meat, you know, most people are eating, I would say, about 70% or even 50% vegan, right? And if you go to your doctor and say, okay, so I'm going to eliminate every food that qualifies as vegan or vegetarian, your doctor will have a conniption, freak out, and tell you you're going to get sick and probably die. And then if you go to your doctor,
a lot of people think that those foods are, when they think cutting out, they think it's the substitutes is what people are going to have, right?
Yeah,
often people think vegan food, they think a vegan cheese, a vegan burger, a vegan pizza. They don't think apples, oranges, bananas.
Well, and that's the problem, right? When people traveled from Europe over to North America to colonize and to create a new world, and they were suffering from scurvy and people were dying on the ships, was it because they were not getting enough meat? This thing that this guy thinks we're designed to be eating? Because if that was what we were supposed to eat, if that's what we were designed to eat, it would provide more sustenance for us than it does. It wouldn't cause inflammation of the colon. It wouldn't cause colon cancer. It wouldn't spike our cholesterol. You know, there's countless indicators of why he's wrong.
Well, the one thing too is, the one thing that he is right is, in this world that we live in, most people are eating animal products, right? So from that standpoint, like, the reality that we live in is true. But 50 years ago, we didn't eat this many animals. We didn't have all these factory farms. 100 years ago, you think people ate animals 3 times a day? 200, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, meat was such a rarity and such a luxury. Often people that had money could only afford it. It's only been since recently that we can eat it like that. You can get your steak to your room service. You think you could get that 400 years ago? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that things change over time. The world shifts over time. What's reality now, 50 years from now, will be a different reality. The reality that you live in, like, there are different kind of realities that we live in, right? So you're not, maybe even in your reality, you might not even know a single vegan or vegetarian. Like, your reality they might not even exist in your reality because you don't even see them or just don't even acknowledge it, right? And so that can be true. But that doesn't mean just because something's happened for a long time, or we're doing something now, right? Either one of those things doesn't automatically make it moral or right. Things that we've done 100 years ago, 200 years ago, right? They were really, really terrible. Just because we did them, or even if we've been doing them up until now, is not a good enough justification to continue doing that action if it's completely unethical and immoral and unnecessary. But he needs to learn that it is unnecessary. You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the biggest open minds to my mind too, is the unnecessary part. I don't have to do this. When I thought that I had to, I would justify all the things that we do. Well, we got to do it. So, I mean, I know it's bad, but it's got to happen. And that's kind of what he says. He's like, killing animals might be wrong, but we got to do it, you know, or whatever. He goes into like some things like, this is bad, but we got to do it, you know, kind of mentality, right? Can I read a couple comments real quick? That's actually, I don't think that they're vegan, but I'm going to read a couple comments that we had.
Yeah, I was just going to say really quickly, he starts to sort of break down energy. Essentially, he doesn't realize it, but what he's breaking down is like the transfer of energy throughout the universe, right? And so from that perspective, yes, energy always exists and it transfers. That is not the same as life, though. You know, when you look at the trophic scales in nature, yes, there are animals eating other animals to gain sustenance and to gain energy. But you go down
life
to the
and
bottom,
sentient life is different.
Yes, and you go down to the bottom of that you know, trophic scale, and you have the sun giving energy to the plants, and the plants giving energy to other plants, and you know, so and they're not necessarily dying in that instance too, especially with like photosynthesis, right? Unless you get into the argument, and this is what I was thinking when he's describing, and I'm like, okay, so technically speaking, I guess the sun is dying. It has to burn in order to keep us alive, and in burning, it's burning up its fuel source ever so slowly.
But that is a something. that is an object. He says
Yes.
something has to die for something to live. There's a difference between something and someone.
Yes, absolutely.
So
All right.
someone doesn't have to die for us to survive. Maybe someone has to die for a lion to survive, right? But a plant is a something.
Well, yeah,
A lot closer to a something, like my mouse on my computer is a something, right? It's an object.
and
right?
there's a whole other bigger thought that we can unpack in another talk. But like, I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, human beings are put here and are different, in and on our planet than all the other living beings. There's something about us that's different and removes us from nature. I don't think that's a hard one to explain, right? Just the way we think, we act. Like, look around, there's no other animals building houses and streets and infrastructure and everything. We are very different. And so to say that we have the same requirements, or that we're part of the same system, or we need to do what a lion does, or anything like that, is so silly. I think that we're so uniquely different that the only logical conclusion to draw is that we are here to be something different than a part of the food chain, right?
Yeah,
and we can get in.
We often pick and choose things that wild animals do that we want to imitate. Hey, look at there. Hey, they're doing it. Got to do it too. And then we're like, that thing that they're doing, not going to do that. That's kind of strange. What are you doing? Sniff some butts, killing your babies? Not going to do that one. Right. And so it's like, like how you pick and choose all these different things. Okay, let's read a couple comments and then we'll finish up the last part of the video and do the last part of the reaction. So it says, a lot of these cringy blue pill dudes are anti-vegan. I saw a Fresh and Fit podcast call people soy boys. Most of them are embarrassing. This is kind of he's kind of like interested in what we're talking about, kind of like, oh, it's an interesting topic. And then saying that it's embarrassing, that most are embarrassing, right? Kind of interesting comment. Not vegan, by the way, but I certainly understand it. And the lame name calling is not cool. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And that's really, I do notice that, because it's kind of hard. Like, he even says, all right, if you're doing it for the animals, I kind of get it. Okay, that makes sense, right? But then he goes on to spew like all these other things, like, oh, if you're doing it for the environment, oh, you're doing it for the health, or you're doing it for these, all those aren't good enough reasons, right? And often when people can't come up with any kind of conscious, logical kind of argument to it, character attack is so common. Character attack. I mean, we've seen it. Look at what's the comments. Oh, your voice is feminine. So what? Okay. Like, what the hell does that have to do? Like, my voice has been the exact same since I was 16. I ate animals from 16 to 29. How? It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. It's been, I mean, it's actually gotten probably deeper, to be honest, actually less feminine. For what I mean, to be honest. All right, one last thing. The natural, this same guy, all same guy. Michael Corleone is the comment, or I don't know if he's still watching. The natural thing is weird too. The quote natural thing is weird too. Shaving your head isn't natural, and our teeth certainly can't break down raw meat without a knife and fork, which isn't natural, which is what you said about the knife and fork one, which is, yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, it's like, it's so many things like are so unnatural that we're doing, like, you just can't claim that. Okay, cool. Let's watch the rest of the video and then we'll do our final reaction. Because this guy, he talks fast. Two, he's from one point to the next in 4 minutes, right? Yeah, and it's like all of them are just like, what? Let's see where we're at. Okay, that's how the universe functions. Vegetarian, you don't understand how the world works. Okay, let's go right here, I think.
On grass, and people shouldn't eat meat. And it's not just vegetarianism, there's lots of things. People say I'm a pacifist, I don't believe in violence. Of course you don't believe in violence. I'm not a violent guy. Until someone breaks in your house and wants to hurt your family, then you got to get violent. You have to understand that the world needs balance. So pacifists are full of shit, vegetarians are full of shit.
I didn't mean to stop it. I was going to just say really quick, I meant to pause it. There's a difference between self-defense, right? You can defend yourself, and then like intentionally killing. And like, he's talking about self-defense. Of course, I'm going to defend if a wolf was attacking you, like, I would definitely want to protect you.
Violent. You have to understand that the world needs balance. So pacifists are full of shit, vegetarians are full of shit. Some things that happen in the world aren't particularly nice. War isn't nice, sometimes it's necessary. Killing animals isn't nice, sometimes it's necessary. That's the reality of the world. That's the nature of the food chain. That's how the whole planet functions. To come along and say, oh, that's not how it is now because you read something on the internet and stopped and decided to start living on carrots when you were 14. Fuck you. Some 3-stone chick who lives on carrots wants to sit and tell me, a big man, not to be having food. Don't eat, you shouldn't eat that. What should I eat? Couscous? Fuck you. So you can live on.
What if someone bigger than you, stronger than you, could outlift you, outwork you, out physical you, and they didn't eat any animals? You know what I mean? Like, what if you met that person? You would like, how would you react? It'd be a totally different reaction than just saying I can dominate you, so that's why I'm more powerful.
On couscous, I got shit to do. I ain't power in my body on couscous. The point is, vegetarians, regardless whether you agree with me or disagree with me on this, if you're a vegetarian, you're thinking, well, you need to at least accept you do not live in the real world. The entire animal kingdom functions on something's death for something else's existence. That's how it entirely functions, and you want to come along and say that's not right. You might as well say gravity isn't real. You live in a fantasy land. Humans eat meat. We're designed to eat meat. I eat meat. Lots of people eat meat. Carrots. You. Yeah, a steak. New policy. To any vegetarian who watches this, for every steak you don't eat, I'll eat 2. Watch me. I'll hit the gym. Biceps will be bigger than ever before. The souls of dead.
If you literally ate 2 steaks for every single vegan in the world, you'd explode and die. Like, that's just a silly statement that honestly, the most time I see this statement, the most common time I see that is from a total troll that doesn't know anything that they're talking about. Oh, since you're vegan, I'm going to eat double the animals because of you, so I can make up for you not harming them. Like, what is that? It's so childish, but it's a very common thing I've seen.
Animals power me. I'll be a unit. I'll be massive. That's the biggest meat eater in the world. And when I walk up all 200 kilos of meat to your hippie convention and rip all your heads off, you're gonna know what a real human being is. How is he so strong? How did he destroy 1 million of our hippie warriors? Because I eat meat. Fuck you.
A lot of the things so generalized and so like, I swear, before I was vegan, I used to think not exactly the same things, but like maybe some hippieness. You know, I even was talking about to one of my friends recently, you know, about how I'm, you know, helping people with a lot of different healing modalities and, you know, a few different things like that and some yoga and stuff. Right. And they were like, oh, you're a hippie. You know, there's this stigma, you know what I mean, that goes towards it. And it's almost like, you know, just pulling out all the generalizations. Here's a generalization. Here's a generalization. Here's a generalization. Let's pull them all out. You know, let's just round them all off, you know. And it is funny because like, look at you and how you live, and look at, you know, how I live, or look at how a lot of people live that are just total opposite, you know, of anything that you would think of a hippie was. And they just say, I don't harm animals. Like, that's just the right thing to do. It's just logical. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, what do you want to wrap this one up with some of the things that he said?
Well, first off, I agree with what you're saying. And like, yeah, the whole tying up hippieness or masculinity or whatever in eating meat is ridiculous. Yeah, I play sports.
What would you say to like I know it's such a cliche phrase, but with great power comes, you know, great responsibility. That's, you know, Spider-Man common thing. What would you say to something like that? Because I think like using that quote, you know, what would you say, you know, to something like this, or someone with that great power, like how they can almost protect the innocent, protect the vulnerable, you know, be that protector. It's like, even you being strong, it doesn't mean you're going to go just kill everyone because you're strong. Like, it's like, there's another saying that I think it might have been Jordan Peterson that said it. I don't know, but I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember exactly how it is. But he's like, it would be better to be like a gardener that knows how to be a warrior or something like that, versus a warrior that doesn't know how to garden, or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's better to be like, I can, you know, protect and fight if I need to, you know what I mean? And help the ones that are around me. Right. But like, I'm just gardening right now. You know what I mean? I'm just doing my thing. You know what I mean? Versus the opposite. Right. And so I think that definitely goes in line with who we actually are and who we should strive to be. So yeah, what would you kind of say to that?
Yeah, I agree. You know, that we, I think Jordan Peterson says something along the lines of like, we need to be capable of being an absolute monster, right? We need to become completely destructive. We need to know how to be completely destructive and an absolute monster, and then rein it in. All right. But you need to have that ability, because that's also what will protect those that you love. And that's what keeps the real monsters at bay. Right. You need to fight fire with fire. So you want to be real masculine, you have to be able to do that. You want to be masculine, you have to be able to kill. You have to be willing, if out of absolute necessity, you have to be willing to kill.
And
you know,
people think some vegans won't. You know what I mean? That is not true.
Yeah.
Like
If a wolf
self-defense, if it comes to it, like me versus, like, you know, I do whatever I got to do, you know, to protect me and myself and others that I care about, you know what I mean, regardless of who's going to get hurt in that survival self-defense situation. It's not, I'm going to go about that lifestyle on a regular.
No, 100%. You know, I have a young niece and nephew, and let's say, you know, a wolf came to try and bite or like grab and run away with my niece. You know, in that instance, I'm not a violent person. I love all animals. But if there was an animal or a wolf trying to kill my niece, I would have no problem basically, like, you know, ripping its jaws off its face and killing it, like, or whatever I had to do with my hands to stop it. Right. And that's masculinity. That's protection. That's, you know, doing what you have to do in the moment. But the whole idea of like, we don't live in reality is really just pinpointing that he doesn't live in reality. He lives in an abstract world where he's making facts up, making up details, making up realities. He's somehow going to be 200 kilograms. That would be fantastic. I'd love to see a human hit that body mass, 200 kilos. That's insane. I don't know if he plans to go to the gym to do this or not, but he's just going to do it.
I've heard him talk about going to the gym, and he's just like, I don't that much anymore. I just like do some push-ups, as many as I can, you know, while I'm traveling and stuff.
Yeah. You know, like he's going to go in and rip people's heads off and like all these things, right, that are just like so fictional, so like just beyond ridiculous, and saying that we don't live in reality if we believe in vegetarianism or veganism. So I guess most of the species on our planet don't exist and also don't live in reality, right? Like all those herbivores that are just eating plants and nothing's dying for them to live.
Aren't all wild animals eating other animals?
They have to be, by his definition.
All of them are. They're all eating each other.
It's the only way it works. That's how it happens. So, you know, like, it just, as soon as you start to sort of dissect what he's talking about, you're basically, I think, dealing with like a child who's living in a fake world, talking about all the bullies they're going to beat up, and then they're going to get on their spaceship and they're going to fly to space and they're going to mine all the gold and be the richest guy around. It's like, you know, like, okay, rein it in here a little bit and let's ground ourselves.
No, you live in a fantasy world.
Right? Like, again, we're the ones that live in the fantasy world.
All right, I want to read. Can I read another comment? Last comment of this same guy. It's nice. Nate Diaz. You know Nate Diaz?
I don't.
He's a fighter. He fought Conor McGregor. He fought a lot of people, but he did beat Conor McGregor in a fight, and he's vegan. And Conor McGregor, before the fight, talked about what he ate. You want to guess? You want to guess what his?
Yeah.
Steak for the loss. And so he lost, but this guy says Nate Diaz is vegan and would beat Andrew Tate in a fight. His logic is flawed. And this supposedly is coming from a non-vegan guy in the comments right here. And I mean, to be honest, I respect people that are objective and they look like, okay, I can see that, you know, whatever, you know, and like this clip that we're talking to in the very end, he smiles and he's like saying, fuck you. And, you know, fuck your carrots. He's being extra. He doesn't quite mean all of that stuff. It's like, what's real, what's not real, kind of like, you know, but I have seen him when he is pressed about issues that he's totally wrong about, admit I'm biased. It's the way I look at it. I'm just looking for my personal experience, my anecdotes, you know, and I do respect that when he's like not being extra and being ridiculous. I respect that you're like, I'm just totally biased. Like I fucking don't know what I'm talking about, you know. That's okay, because then it's like you're sharing that you're ignorant to this, and that's totally okay. I really do respect that, you know, to be way more than just lying and deflecting and doubling down on the bullshit. It's like, come on, just like, it's okay. Like, you don't know, it's okay. I don't know everything. There's so many things that guy probably knows way more about me, you know, the guy that we're commenting on, you know, like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And there's many things that we study in like nutrition and like teach it and educate people, and most don't. Like, I mean, probably 99% of people don't really know that much about nutrition, and it's like, where are they taught? Where are they going to learn that, you know, unless they specifically went out and seeked it. So any last words or any parting things that you want to say?
I mean, geez, there's so much swimming in my head, you know, after watching some of the stuff. I think a lot of our viewers will be able to dissect and make sense of stuff on their own. I shouldn't have to highlight too much. I think it's pretty obvious, right, where he's speaking from a place of not knowing what's going on. There are some points that he does make in those other clips that we watched that I think, you know, we're dealing with a reasonably intelligent person here, but far too stuck in his ego and obviously ignorant when it comes to nutritional facts. And then, you know, just paired with a fragile ego that I think, you know, he and so many people are so terrified of what other people will think of their masculinity, that they need to prove that they, you know, are better than anyone else. And like, so for example, like, I played really competitive hockey growing up, right? And I play recreationally now with a bunch of people who, you know, didn't necessarily play as competitively as I did growing up. And, you know, does it make me any better or worse of a hockey player if I go out and I dominate the game and I score 10 goals and they don't score any, no one else scores any, I don't pass to anyone, and I just dominate. I put 10 goals in and no one else really gets to do anything.
Triple hat trick.
Right? So I do that. And then let's say the next week I go out and I don't score any goals, but I still play the game and I pass the puck and other people score and, you know, everyone has fun. Am I any less, you know, of a hockey player that second game?
You
right?
didn't score the goals because you're vegan is why.
My
The
point
first
is,
one, you were still vegan, but that doesn't count.
So if you know you're able to play those two different games, and you go out and you play that second game, does that mean you're less of a hockey player? Just because you're not showing other people that you can do something, right? And that's where he gets caught in this weird little trap of like, men need to eat meat and we need to show that we're masculine, and we need to do that by showing that something else died so that we can be cool. And it's like, all right, so your masculinity is extremely fragile, right? And it apparently would not take very much for you to feel emasculated, because, you know, you really need to very, very much need to show as many people on this planet as possible how masculine you are by talking about this stuff and saying, fuck you, vegetarians, and like, you know, and that's, I rarely swear on a YouTube, but or on any social media, but there you go, repeating him. But, you know, saying that kind of thing just shows how desperate he is to cling to a concept. You know, and that's why I don't swear, is because I don't get worked up. I'm not desperate to prove anything I'm saying, and I'm fairly calm and grounded in what I'm saying because it's based on research, it's based on intellectual thought, and reason. Right. And obviously he's lacking that in his posture and stance. So to the audience out there, bear that in mind and take that for what you will.
Yeah, for sure. I want to say thank you for those that watch, those that will watch this replay when it comes up, this live stream. Like and subscribe the video, please. That's how more people get a chance to see this. And then also down below, we'll have, you know, a link to the original video and some more information down there for you guys. So yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully the same time or 5:30 Pacific time is the goal. So yeah, talk to you soon, Mike. Thank you so much. Be sure to follow Mike as well. We'll put his Instagram down below there where he's most active there. And thank you all for spending time with me and Mike as well today and going through this very, very interesting character, Andrew Tate. and a little bit into the way his mind works and how to help people and to not harm themselves or others. All right, take care, guys, and see you soon.
You know, for those of you out there, like if you have nutritional questions or comments, or you want to learn more, you want to ask questions, you want to understand this stuff, you know, some of it maybe made sense what we said, but you didn't know enough, or you want to, you know, hear more, please reach out to us. This is what we do. This is what we love to talk about. This is our passion. You know, and between us, we've got 20 years of veganism, we've got nutritional education, we've got heavy duty athletic background. You know, hopefully there's something that we can help you with. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you as always. And see you guys.